We rolling? Yeah. Train left the station. I sat and watched it go. She left me here waiting. Said, babe, I love you, don't you know that I can't stay here, just waste away. There's something out there that's calling my name. I'll see you again, but don't wait on me. Just let me go. Train's about to leave. I wish I could get to the other side, that Union Pacific line, and take you back home, and take you back home. I picture her dancing, boys in the bars all night. She might not be theirs, but she sure as hell ain't mine. Now don't be like that, please understand. It's more than a job, it's more than a man. I'll see you again, but don't wait on me. Just let me go, the train's about to leave. I wish I could get to the other side, Union Pacific line, and take you back home, and take you back home. Another day, another train. Until then, I'll wait. I'm not getting over another day. You can't say, we'll see what we can take. You know that it hurt me too. Oh, oh, I'm not getting over you. To the other side, that Union Pacific line, take you back home. I wish I could get to the other side, that Union Pacific line, take you back home, take you back home.
Yo, welcome to the Pride Rock podcast. Today I had another chat with Aaron Barry from the Awakened Brave. We covered a variety of subjects, including the shadow self, traveling on your own, and, breaking out of your comfort zone. and a lot of other things, of course. Yeah, as always, I hope you'll like it, and we'll speak soon. We'll definitely will. Have a good day. See you. Bye.
Okay, so third time lucky then.
Yeah,
So
let's
I
see
can
how it
see
goes.
you're moving around. You're not frozen. So have you got a particular subject that you want to sort of launch into this time, Rowan?
I just wanted to talk a little bit since last time we spoke, to see where we at the moment.
Okay, where are we at?
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you want to lead? Because I've got no idea where we're at.
Wait, someone went upstairs. Yes, we can talk. Okay, so yeah, I've been going out, and paying attention to people basically. And what I really notice is how people say one thing, but they end up doing something else. Women especially, because I would go out and I would hang out with them, and they would tell me like, okay, I don't want to do anything with you, and then they would show something completely else at the end of the night. So it's really crazy. I think it has something to do with where people are at or something, with the emotions, or they're maybe trying to sh- to mislead you or something. I don't know. I thought it was really really weird.
Yeah, it's kind of a phenomenon of human nature when uh, people say that they're not going to do this or they're not going to do that, and then the very next minute or the next day or something, that then they're doing it again, and it's just a constant reiteration, really, that people they don't know themselves.
Yeah, but I thought it was maybe a little game or something, It's something I noticed multiple people doing, especially women. They will say like, "Oh no, I don't want to do this or don't want to do that," and then all of a sudden they're doing it. It's so crazy. It's like their words and their actions aren't really aligned, and whether they're doing that consciously or not, I'm not sure. But it's really interesting. I like to pay attention to things like that when I go out and socialize, because I want to become more aware. I actually talked yesterday for my podcast with this woman, and she teaches people to connect with their hidden emotional selves, because there are all these parts of ourselves that we're basically neglecting and putting away, and they subconsciously, are still there, and they, pop up at random moments, and basically, make things a little difficult for you. And she's basically helping people with finding those parts and reintegrating them. So I thought it was really interesting. She basically talked about how you can find those parts and work, integrate them in your personality, so you can use them differently.
Well, the thing is about the personality that it consists of many beings. This is something that you'll be aware of if you read somebody like Rudolf Steiner. And obviously, many psychologists, because they talk about the split personality, the multiple personality. And you see, most people tend to think that this multiple personality is a psychological condition. But it only is a psychological condition if you can't control each personality, if they seem alien to you, if all of a sudden when another personality comes about, you don't have an awareness of it. Like say people uh, very very different personalities. Personalities say like a personality of somebody that supposedly lived 100 years ago, then a personality of a very depressive person, then a personality of somebody that's really pensive, and so you've got these varying personalities. And we've all got these varying personalities because sometimes we like to sit down and be very, very quiet. Other times we like to be flamboyant. Sometimes we can be very happy. Sometimes we can be loving. Sometimes we can be aggressive. So is it not right to assume that they are all different personalities? Why do we assume that they all come from the one personality?
I think every person has some natural state, and things happen in one's life that cause basically um, you to that caused a split, you know. So for instance, this is what my guest of yesterday talked about. So you know, you're 8 or something, and something negative happens, and instead of, you know, living through that moment, you will put it away. And it's like, it's not really away, you're just putting it away, and by not living through that moment, it will stay somewhere in your subconscious, and it will, you know, come up at random moments. And you know, this it starts with this, but this will become bigger when you do it more, like when you hide more things, you know. And that's what a lot of people basically do. And that's where all these insecurities and pains come from, you know, from all those things that happened in our childhoods and maybe teenage years. But she's basically talking about, you know, finding those things and going into them to you know, become more aware of them, you know, and do more constructive things with them. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think we do have a natural state, really. When you are, you know, free, you're feeling good. Maybe when you had some alcohol, you know, you'll relax and you'll talk easily with people and stuff. So I think there is one self, but I don't think we can always use it or something.
Okay, well, I'll beg to differ on that one because I know my personality is very interchangeable, and friends will say to me on any given day, "Who are you today?"
Yeah.
Who is this person speaking now? Because I have very varying opinions. I'm not the sort of person that has got one opinion or see things, the world in one particular way. So if I'm feeling spiritual, then I'm looking at the world from a spiritual perspective. I'm looking at it from a cosmological perspective. I'm not looking at it from this tiny vessel that my spirit is in
Mhm.
this earthly plane,
Mhm.
like, oh, it's cold today and it's a bit miserable. Okay, so we can feel sometimes, well, personally, I don't ever feel miserable, but some people can feel miserable and they can blame it on this and blame it on that. And then, okay, you can say, well, that's the miserable side of their personality. And then you can find something that they really enjoy doing and they're very happy with that. Well, that's the very, very happy side of the personality. And so to say that this one personality is responsible for all facets, that is just as feasible as saying that there's many spirits within our body
Mhm.
which have particular traits. One spirit is a happy soul, another spirit is maybe a depressive soul, another spirit is a very pensive. And so I'm tend to I think it's a lot more complex than we give credit for.
It
And
is
so
really complex, I think.
I experience that, and I know that on any given day, I say to myself, from what perspective are you speaking from today? Because sometimes I get quite argumentative. And I want to deliver a video to a certain sector of society. And then the next day, I'll think to myself, well, I wouldn't have done that. And then I say to myself, well, what do you mean you wouldn't have done that? You did do it. No, the person I am now, the personality trait I'm experiencing now, wouldn't have done that. It was one of the other facets of my personality.
Mhm.
And so if we have rage, and then people like they see red and they commit damage and you know, perpetrate aggression, then when they come out of that rage, they go, I don't know what come over me, you know, because it's like something else takes possession of them. And so this person that says, I don't know what come over me, they're admitting that they had no control over that other facet of their personality.
Yeah. But it also depends on what you see as your personality, right? I mean, those would be all your mental layers, but I mean, like, when that's all still, you know, when all that noise is gone and you're like present, what's left then? I think that's the real self, and all those things you talk about. I have that as well, of course, but those are maybe the ego. I don't know, but those are like layers, you know, of the onion. I see it more like that. I do acknowledge those things are there as well, but I don't think at the end of the day that's the real you, as the you as in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I think anything that comes out of you, Rowan, is the real you,
Hmm.
because it's emanating from you. And so, what you're saying that if you commit a murder, that wasn't the real you, so you shouldn't go to jail. If you steal something, that wasn't the real you, so you shouldn't be charged with the theft. No, every single thing you do is the real you. And what it is, you see, what it boils down to, in my estimation, that there's so many things about our personality that we don't want to take ownership for. That's it. In a simple statement, we deny that these personalities are us. Oh, that wasn't me. Oh, I don't know what come over me. It was something that moved within me. Something made me do it. Or they can say it was the devil within me. Or any nonsense like this. No, please, excuse me. Accept yourself for what you are. You've got good within you. You've got bad within you, and
Yeah.
you've got all the variances within between. And so you see what you were speaking about regarding this woman, how she's saying that sometimes people bury things. Well, it's called repression, and so we repress the things that we don't want to face about ourselves,
And about
and we
life.
also yeah, we repress things that happen to us that we don't want to accept or can't deal with. So therefore, you get these things buried deep within your psyche. They've not gone away. They're a part of your subconscious, and they carry on living within you. Only your conscious mind has suppressed them, is denied them. But that doesn't mean they've gone away, because what happens is with the denied and suppressed experiences and energies, they will make manifest through your body in another way. And this is what Freud spent many, many years discovering. If somebody suppresses a sexual energy because they're married, they're not getting sexually satiated from their partner, they have so many other fantasies. And if they say to themselves, well, I can't have these fantasies. And when in the old days, 100 years ago, masturbation was, the devil himself and all this sort of thing. And so if you repress and suppress your sexual energy, then it's going to make manifest in another way, and it's going to come out in an unsatisfied energy expression, and generally it's going to be an illness.
Yeah, exactly. Or it will manifest in your surroundings, right?
Manifesting your what? Sorry.
Surroundings. So I believe you can see those things back in your um, surroundings as well. Like in people or whatever. So when you hide certain things about yourself, basically, your day-to-day life will reflect that back to you.
Well, but I mean, I don't understand entirely what you're saying here. If you've got suppressed energy within you, then it's within you and it's not out there. And so, we can't apportion blame. Oh, that's why the weather's so terrible today because I'm feeling so terrible inside. Or I can't stand that person. He's done nothing wrong, but I'm feeling terrible inside. So all you're doing is projecting your negative energy. We have to take ownership of our negative energy. We have to take ownership of all of our negative energy, with all of our energies, with all of our fears,
Mm.
with all of our desires. We have to take ownership of everything. And I've just done a couple of videos today about this. People believe in gods all over the world. People believe in gods, and of course, then they believe in the opposite. In the Hindu religion, you've got Shiva, which is the destroyer, and then you've got Vishnu, which is the creator. And so, if anything goes bad, then it's down to Shiva. If anything goes good, then it's down to Vishnu. And it's kind of like, well, what you're doing is then you're denying yourself of having any involvement as to what's happening, good and bad, in your life, because you're blaming it on the abstract. When in actual fact that you are mostly responsible for everything that happens to you. I mean, even if you are crossing the road and you get hit by a car, you can say, well, I had nothing to do with that. No, of course you did, because at some point you failed to observe, or you failed to judge a situation. So therefore, you was at fault. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened, because you would have seen the car and you would have made certain assessments and been in avoidance of it. But people, you see, when they believe in these externals like God and the devil, then when bad stuff happens, people do bad stuff, then all of a sudden it's the Satan working its mysterious evil all over the globe. Um, but then, where's God? If that's the case, God's the benevolent one, the all-powerful one. Well, where's God when Satan's working his evil? And so I say to people, I say, well, look, people, the most rational perspective to look at this is that it's man that is doing all this evil. And it isn't any negative evil entity working through man. It's the evil within man that man doesn't want to accept. And this is why man's created the devil to blame it on somebody else, to blame it on the external, when in actual fact, all human beings are capable of evil, but
Hmm.
they don't want to accept it, Rowan.
That's what actually exactly what I meant. You can see it back in your surroundings. So you'll maybe hate on someone, or someone will be negative to you, and most people will probably blame it on that person. But it probably has something to do with yourself, and whether you believe in all those metaphysical things or just down to earth stuff, it has probably something to do with you. By that, it can have something to do with how you look at the world. It can have something to do with your perspective on things. That's what I mean. Like you see things back in your surroundings, and how it will how you will receive it has always something to do with you. People will always look at the external thing instead of themselves.
Absolutely. So, if we start to understand ourselves and we understand how we create our environment,
Hmm.
and if we are aware of the energy that we're giving off, whether it's negative or positive,
Hmm.
if you are in an environment where people respond to you very positively, then obviously you are giving off a positive energy. If you are carrying the weight of a depression or of a bereavement, then that energy will be portrayed. People will be able to feel it, if only subconsciously. It will be written all over your whole demeanor. And so, therefore, you will be responsible for creating whatever atmosphere is around you. And so, these are two extremes. And so, all we need to do is to be more conscious of actually what we are giving off, how we are creating our energy, what our outlook on life is,
Yeah.
what our perception of ourself is. Because once we understand our self perception, then we know much more better to be able to govern ourselves and oversee ourselves and realize that we are creating our reality.
I don't think that awareness is enough, because I'm now at a point where I'm very aware of the things I do and all the insecurities that come up. Um, but I'm aware of them, but I can't always do anything about it. So I'm in conversation with you, for instance, and I'll feel this energy coming up, but I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know what to do with it. Or for instance, what you were talking about just a few minutes ago, like someone will be positive. Um, about you, but if you have some negative beliefs you're not aware of, and they come up, you will never believe the good things that person will say about you. So I'm at the moment looking for a way to delve deeper into those um, insecurities, those problems. uh, I'm trying to delve into the roots and trying to work it out, because I believe it must be. You should be able to do it. I think, but it can be really hard and really painful. I've been working on awareness for a while, and I feel like I'm now ready for the next step, whatever that may be.
Okay, so yeah, the whole self-awareness thing. I also spoke about this the other day in a video, as far as the self-perception that you have.
Mhm.
You must never be confused and think just because you have that perception of yourself
That others
that
have that.
transfers then to everybody else that you meet,
Yeah.
because it absolutely doesn't. Because if you ask 10 friends how to define you, say like in 20 words, then you may be very surprised as to their definitions. And you will say to yourself, surely you don't think that about me. Well, I'm this and I'm that. I'm not that and I'm not that.
Mhm.
But the point is, you see, you are whatever the person's perception dictates. Whether it's right or wrong, whether it's real or not, that's what that their subjective opinion is. And so for them, it's right. For you, it may not be right.
Mhm.
It may be right with a general consensus, and you may not want to accept it
Mhm.
because you don't have that opinion of yourself. That's something that you've buried or you deny.
Mhm.
But other people can see it as plain as day.
Mhm.
And so there's so many things to take into to consideration about what we are.
Yeah, it's true. But it's really hard, you know. I really want to work on my image about myself, you know. I'm not happy about it. The way I think about myself now, it's not really helping me, you know. It's gotten better and better, but you know, I want to think the same way some other people think about me, you know. That would make things a lot easier, I actually think. Because now it's like I feel like, you know, there's this blockage from time to time, and I want to just get rid of it, you know. I would totally want to get rid of it. It's just not benefiting me at all. And yeah, I'm trying to find out where the blockage is coming from. But, you know, it's really, really hard to find out because, you know, I've been trying to delve into it deeper, but then I'll get all these weird dreams or all these weird, you know, things I can't do a lot with, you know. So it's there's a lot of noise at the moment, but not a lot of clearance. You know what I mean? So
Okay, so what is it actually that you're trying to come to terms with and trying to understand?
there are several things, but you know, when I talk with people, I feel this blockage. I feel like stiff. Uh, but you know, others don't perceive me like that. I can really notice. Sometimes they even tell me that. But I myself don't feel like that about myself, and I feel this blockage. You know, I feel like I feel like I can't really be myself. You know, it's really hard to explain, but it's a feeling I have about myself, and it's not something I'm consciously thinking or something. It's not like I'm thinking, oh, I'm this or that. But there's just this nasty underlying feeling, you know. And I'm really try instead of, you know, watching television or doing all this stuff, I'm really trying to be present with it and, you know, just, you know, delve into it and trying to find out what it really is because, you know, that's what I learned from that woman I talked with yesterday, but I've heard it before as well. You know, you should become present with when those things come up instead of, you know, just wanting to get rid of it, you know, have drinks or do other stuff, you know.
Yeah, so you look inside yourself and you see if you can sort of come to terms with it. So when you are saying that you're speaking with people, you feel stiff.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a bit of a language barrier here because probably you can't express yourself so precisely in a foreign language. So I'm going to try to help. Do you mean that you're not so free with yourself? Do
Yeah.
you mean you feel inhibited and you want to be the person who you know is within you
Yeah.
that can't come out?
Yeah, it's true. But you know what the thing is? I I found out that it usually always comes out, but with some people I feel like, you know, it feels like natural, but with other people it feels like I'm not myself. But you know, when I look at the behavior in the one example and in the other example, I'm basically doing the same thing. It's all about the feeling I have about myself when I'm doing it. You know what I mean? So I could say like, hey, and with the one person it feels good, and with the other person it feels not so good. You know?
Do you think it could have something to do with, like most people, are not authentic in themselves, and so the energy that they're giving off is tight and it's low, and so when you are present within that energy field, then what we tend to do, you see, we tend to be empathetic with another person. And so it's kind of like when you are mated with somebody, when you like somebody, then what you tend to do is you mirror their actions, because you're trying to get this sort of um, oh goodness me, this coming together of the confluence. You're trying to get a confluence whereby you become one. And so you'll find that if you're speaking to a friend and he crosses his arms like this, then you'll find that very quickly you will assume that same position. So you're trying to get this togetherness, and your unconsciousness is doing it. But if your unconsciousness feels a vibration which is tight and doesn't want to reveal anything to you, then you may be feeling restricted by that, because you can't probably feel free to be yourself in that environment.
Yeah. Well, I've thought about it. For I have some other things as well, but you know, about this thing, and it's like when I talk with some people, I subconsciously think they are better than me. They have a higher status, so I basically want them to like me. And I will do this pleasing behavior. Basically, I will care about what they think about me more, and I don't want to. I want them to think I'm nice. While with some other people, also people I don't know, I don't give a shit at all. I'll just start talking and do whatever, and they'll like me. But when you do that pleasing behavior, people will pick that up as well, and they'll behave accordingly, and you'll note that behavior as well, and it's all this cycle.
Yes, and so basically, then what does that tell you?
I'm insecure. I should rely on my own, on myself. I shouldn't look for approval at others. I think.
Exactly, and so you should try to be more happy with your authentic self.
Yeah.
And so this feeling stiff when you're with people, then it's because you are not feeling your authentic self, inhibited because you want to please the other person, and so you're looking for sort of signs as to what you think they want from you, and then you kind of like you're waiting. He wants this from me, and if you tell a joke or something and he responds positive to that, then you'll keep doing that and you'll keep doing it, and you'll keep trying to please. You'll keep
Yeah.
trying to press that button, and then of course after a while it becomes contrived, and the other person's can feel that it's contrived, and then they will back away from you.
And
So
naturally, I'm actually really edgy. I like to test people. And I have a strong opinion. But when I'm around certain people, I don't have the courage to do that. So I'll basically become really quiet and just don't say certain things. And yeah, it just doesn't work. But I think I know now what's happening. But you know, um, changing that, you have to go to the core, instead of trying to change the behavior, because then it's like you're doing an act. You're doing the right behavior, but you're still feeling the same. So I feel like I have to do something about feeling instead of the actions. When I do work on a feeling, the actions will change automatically.
yeah, yeah. And so I remember as a youngster, my personality would be quite a bit more fluctuating than it is now. Because what I would do is I would act um, in a way which would be acceptable to that relationship. And when you know people well, then you know that they respond better to a certain side of your personality. And this is what I say about, well, all these facets, they are different facets, they're different personalities, because I would respond differently to one person as another. For instance, if I was to go over to see my old man, who was a really kind of subdued person in his latter years, very depressive, then I couldn't bound in and go, "What's happening, old man?
Yeah.
How's it swinging?
Yeah.
And do you want a beer and this, that, and the other? And oh, fuck me, I had a great time with some chick last night." wouldn't go down well. When I went into his arena, I would have to be low. I would have to change the way my vibration was to suit his. Otherwise, it just wasn't going to happen. He wouldn't respond at all. So, if I wanted to get the best out of him, which was that level, if I was going to get anything out of him, I'd have to meet him on his terms. Now, if I was to go round a few best friends, then accordingly, I could be more flippant, more jovial, more larger than life, and just exuberant because that's what they knew they could expect from me. And they go, "Fucking hell, he's on one of these moods tonight. Oh, we're in for a good night," and it's kind of like that, Larry. I used to be very Larry. And so you obviously pick your vibration when you mix with different people.
Yeah, it's about adjusting. I agree, and I do that naturally, But I'm talking about the feeling I have about myself. I can adjust, like you just said, and feel good about myself. I do that all the time, but there's this nasty feeling I have, that comes up, and like I said, I used to have some conscious things I was doing as well, like consciously thinking I'm a piece of shit, blah blah. I worked all those things out. Those are no problem anymore. Only the things you can't see like that, are still left, and they sneak up
Yeah.
on me.
Okay. So if you like have suffered from low self-esteem in the past, and you've matured a bit now, and for the better part, you've grown out of that,
Yeah,
then obviously, um, subconsciously, those scars are still there.
yeah,
And
exactly.
from time to time, because it's still early days, they are going to rear, their ugly heads.
Hmm.
And so it's something you're going to have to keep
Working
check.
on. Yeah,
And yeah, I think it's just about really getting to know yourself
yeah.
and to capitalizing on the parts of yourself that you like the most and paying no attention to those that you're not too keen on. Because if you pay attention to those that you're not too keen on, then you're giving them energy.
Hmm. Yeah, it's true, but also when you ignore them, some I believe some parts of myself I need to put some light on. For instance, there's some really strange coincidence that happens in my life all the time. All my friends always are late. Their rooms are a mess and whatever. And me myself, I'm the opposite. I'm always on time. Everything is strict and whatnot. But there is a part of myself that is like my friends as well. But because I have this office job and so and stuff, I'm like I don't know how to explain. I'm like overcompensating, extra working for this other thing, that's not really natural to me, and I'm basically neglecting that all over the place part of me. And I can't prove it or anything, but I feel like that part of me manifests itself in my friends or something. It's really strange, and the more things like that are happening, it's really crazy. But I feel like I do have to look at those a part of myself. For instance, when I was younger, I used to identify with being really quiet and really hardworking, but then I found out I actually was the opposite. I was really goofy actually, and it's really crazy. I was just not looking at some parts of myself, and now I'm more expressing them. So yeah, it's really hard to explain and to work with. But I'm becoming more aware of it.
So it's interesting that you say that you feel as if you're expressing yourself via some of your friends.
Yeah.
Um, that's something that I can't say I've ever heard before. And what I can relate it to is that we will very often have friends who have personalities that we would like to be.
Hmm.
For instance, we've all had a funny friend.
Hmm.
Everywhere we go with this funny friend, this guy's funny.
Hmm.
He can make everybody laugh in any given situation. And you just think damn, this guy is a lady killer. He could laugh or get laughs out of any sticky situation that he was in. And I asked this person, I said, where does your funniness, your humor come from? And what he said to me was very, very curious. He said to me, he said, look, Aaron, you, with all your muscles and all your karate training and your good looks, you can get the girls. You can fight your way out of any sticky situation. Me, I'm not good looking, and I don't have a great body. I'm weak, and I'm a chicken shit. So therefore, what I've come to rely on was something that I did through nervousness when I was younger. I created humor, and it just so happens that I've got good at it. That's the only reason I do it everywhere I go, because I'm not a confident person, really. I just convey to myself to be confident because it's the only way that I can get through life. Like he just said about me, I get through life in other ways. I'm authentic to myself. I don't have to try to be something else. He does. And so I thought that was really very profound. And I thought it was very sad at the same time because all the time uh, he would be living through the eyes of somebody else. And once he told that to me, I would then understand far more how, when I used to go round his house, when he wasn't expecting me, then he'd be really low and really subdued. And that would be his natural self. No personality, no charisma, weak, soft. And he would sit just watching movies in the afternoon. But if I had have said to him, let's go out tonight, he would have changed his personality. And when he comes out, he's this guy. And so sounds a little bit like what you're struggling with. You're struggling with various personalities that you don't really know which one you like the best.
Well, mm, it's hard to explain. I feel like I have like several qualities. I feel like everyone has a map, of energy, and you can use it for different things. And because of the things that happen in your life, you will use it in a certain way. But I've come I found out you can change certain points and use it differently. Um, yeah, you can use it differently. So I'm more struggling with that now. I've been doing things in a certain way, and now I'm trying to redirect things and do it in a way that's more beneficial to my life. What your friend is doing sounds also a little bit like
Yeah,
compensating, right?
yeah,
That's not what I am doing. What I do is something that comes from me. It is natural, but like I said, I feel like you can use certain things for different things. So that you're really quiet and sensitive doesn't mean you can't be very loud as well. You can have both factors, but you could also choose to use that more sensitive side for other things. For instance, you could come out very expressive, but at the same time use that sensitiveness, to feel people out and stuff. So you can use it for multiple things.
yeah. So basically, what we have to do in our lives, if we're going to be successful at social intercourse, we have to become like a chameleon.
Yeah.
We have to be able to adapt to any given situation. And what we have to do is we have to be very astute. We have to determine the vibration of that setting. For instance, if you're feeling very full of yourself and you're having a great day, and then you just think you're going to drop in with friends, and you drop in with friends, and if you're not sensitive to that vibration, then you're going to appear obnoxious, and you're going to appear with no feeling or capacity to assess that situation.
Hmm.
Because if you drop in on somebody unawares and they could be in the middle of an argument, or they could have just had some really bad news. And if you can't read the situation, then of course you're not really a full human, are you? You don't have the intricacies of a fully fledged human. And I've got people like this in my family, um, who never ever consider anybody else. They just consider themselves, and they go round because they want to tell that person about themselves. They don't have the slightest inclination to ever ask that person, "How are you today? Have I imposed on something? Were you in the middle of something? Uh, Sorry for boring you with all my shit." No, never think about that. And so there's so many facets, isn't there, to our personality that we have to come to
Yeah,
grips.
but it also has to do when you're talking about that with focus. You could come from a place of thinking, rationality, and then you really have to pay attention to all those things. But when you're coming from a focus of, I don't really know how to call it, feeling, then you don't even have to think about it because it's a natural thing for humans to do, I believe, except when you are maybe a psychopath or whatever. But
So intuition.
yeah, intuition. If you don't think about it and you're aware of your surroundings and you're not, only thinking about yourself the whole time, and paying attention to your own feelings, then things will just happen, But like the previous example, when you're with someone you perceive as higher status, you will get in your head and you will think things too much through, and your confidence will low. And it has to do with your focus. The place where you're coming from, basically.
Yeah, so what would it be that you would consider which elevates somebody else above you?
There's really superficial things. I think they come from, in my case, from childhood beliefs. When someone is wears all these luxurious clothes or something, or they have a certain attitude. I think they make me think about people I've encountered in the past. I think it has to do with that. I don't think um, it there's any reason for me to think they're higher. It's just something I subconsciously do, and it has something to do with things that happen to me. But I don't know yet what those things are. I only know that it has something to do with that, and I want to find out what it is. And that's what I was talking about. I want to know
Right.
what the root
Okay.
is.
Yeah. So when you come upon somebody, for instance, when I was younger, I used to feel intimidated by very educated, eloquent people because when you're in the vicinity of these people uh, who are very educated, very well read, uh, you, when you say something, they will make you feel. Some people will make you feel the the lack of education that you have, the lack of eloquence, the lack of articulation, they will make you feel that you have a deficit. And so, kind of like you feel a bit oppressed then to be yourself because you don't want to make a fool of yourself, you don't want to feel stupid, and you don't want to say a word that you don't really understand
Hmm.
in case this person picks you up on it. Now, my old man was one of these people.
Right.
He very overpowering person, and so I could recognize these people very, very quickly.
And your father as well, right? They
Yes,
made you think about your father. You would
yes.
project all those things you felt about your father on them, basically, right?
Well,
Sort of.
yeah, I mean, more to the point that I would be able to recognize them and I would feel the feelings that I got from my father. So I wasn't projecting it onto those, but I would relive
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
potential embarrassment
Yeah.
of my old man putting me down.
Hmm.
And so I can see where you're coming from. And of course, you, 23,
Yeah.
you're at this age
22.
where you, 22, yeah, you're a fledgling. You've only just flown the nest. You've got your whole life ahead of you. You've got so many scenarios to go through, which are going to give you strength and are going to enable you to know thyself.
Yeah, I want to go too quickly. Sometimes I'm thinking like, I'm thinking like a 60-year-old man. I just should enjoy my life and shit. But it's just not how I work. I should work on enjoying stuff, but I always want to know more about myself, and I can't help it. I feel like it has something to do with why I'm here. I don't know, because I
Yeah.
don't see a lot of people around me doing this, so it has to mean something. I don't know.
Well, you started on the path of introspection, and so many, many people they don't do this, and so therefore they don't have this confusion inside. They don't have all these questions: why? Why am I feeling like this? Why is he treating me like that? Why is she looking at me like that? They don't do this. All they're doing is concentrating on the abstract. They're looking at where they're going. They're looking at what they want to achieve, and they're not paying any mind to anybody else's feelings or emotions or anything like this. And so I think basically that's one of the early pitfalls or the early frustrations of becoming awake because you don't quite know how to handle yourself. You don't quite know how to handle anybody else. It's a long, long path that you've got to learn. Now,
Yeah.
I remember one scenario which there was this guy, and he was a member of the gym that I used to go to, and he was a member of uh, my circle of friends,
Hmm.
kind of loosely. I'd have a couple of friends who he'd be a friend of, and on occasion we would end up at the same party. And this guy, he always wanted to keep his hair so immaculately brushed up, dyed, and combed up like this. And I got to see very quickly why he was doing that because he was going bald. And so I thought, well, he's doing that because he's obviously insecure. But not only is he insecure, it's quite stupid because he thinks that everybody can't see. He thinks by brushing it up like that and dyeing it black that people don't know he's grey and bold, really. And so this guy, due to his insecurity, every single place he used to go, his opening line would be within a few seconds, "Do you know I'm in Mensa?" You know this Mensa? It's like it's an organisation for people with an IQ over say like
Yeah.
120. He would tell people that within his opening few lines, and so he would always want to intimidate somebody or build himself
Yeah.
up, put himself on a pedestal. Look how clever I
Yeah.
am. I'm in Mensa, so you better watch out.
Because he
And
didn't
so
believe he was enough. He felt like the only thing he had to offer was, this status he has.
that's right. And so he did that on me one day, and it worked on me momentarily because I was only young at the time. But then, having known him for a couple more years and watched him, I thought, I know why he does that. He does it because he's insecure, and uh, by his very professing to be in Mensa and to have such a high IQ, he's telling me that that IQ isn't worth a wank simply because if he was as smart as he proclaimed, he wouldn't need to go around telling everybody to get
Yeah.
them on their back foot, to intimidate them. His intelligence would just come through naturally during natural conversation.
It's true, and I feel like a lot of men nowadays are trying to impress women with stuff like that, money, clothes, looks, things like you were talking about. But even their personality, you have all these buffed up guys in the club talking very loud and trying to show girls how fun they are and whatnot. But I found that if you just be yourself, be authentic, congruent to who you are, it works as if it's a technique or anything. It's not, you're just being yourself, but whatever, it works as well, if you just stay relaxed, because maybe girls will be interested in you for a little while, but you can't hold up that image for very long. At some point the cracks will come, and the girls will see you for whom you really are, a very insecure person, like that friend of you. So it's just
Yeah,
a facade that you probably can't hold up for very long.
You can't sustain it, and so there is a lot to be said just for being casual because I think, in my experience, in any case, women will find you much more attractive if you're not trying. As soon as
Exactly.
you start trying, then they don't find that attractive because everybody likes a challenge, and girls particularly, or equally like men, they like the stimulation of the challenge and a bit of a chase. If it's
Yeah.
coming too easy, look how great I am, baby. You know, you can have a piece of me if you play your cards right. This sort of stupid thing, I don't think that goes very far.
I was in a club a few days ago, and there was this really pretty girl, and all these fashionable guys were chasing her. I wasn't even noticing her, she was apparently looking at me the whole time, and I was just ignoring her because I wasn't really interested, to be honest. But at some point, she began dancing onto me and stuff. I was still ignoring her, and it just drives her crazy. At some point, she began to touch me and stuff. So that's really how it works. All these guys are trying to impress girls, like I said, with all these things. But I don't think that's what they want, and that's what anyone wants. Even when it comes down to friendships, or whatever. Do you want to be friends with someone who's trying to prove himself the whole time, and who's showing the whole time like, oh, I'm so good, I'm having this and I'm having that.
Well, that's right. There's no authenticity there, and so it's only a matter of time before you're going to see the real person, and the chances are you're not going to like them.
No,
And so yeah, it's all just all about growth, really, and sort of capitalizing on your better attributes.
hmm
What the sort of person you want to be, because I can be uh, abrasive. I've always been able to be um, the sort of guy that with my tongue I can upset people very, very quickly
hmm
because I've always been, pretty astute and I can see through facades and I can see what the weaknesses are.
me too.
And if I wanted to, then I can say things like that. And people are not expecting it because they don't think anyone can see it. And when you say it, oh, they become very, very afraid of that.
I have
And
it
so
as well.
I've been able to do that, but and most times I would just do it because that's just I'm being me. I've made an observation, I've pointed out something, but then it's kind of like shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You should be more restrained. And I would go, well, why? Because like that's what he is. I'm just saying what he is. Yeah, but people don't want to hear what they are.
I don't think it's about a positive side or negative side of you. I think it's about traits, and every trait has a dark side and a light side, And I don't know how you would call the trait you were just describing, but the light side of it is that you can see through things and help people with it. But maybe the dark side of it is that you can also see the bad things and maybe can use it against people. I think
Yeah.
it would be better to look at it from that way because every dark side you have also has a side to it you can use for the greater good, I think.
Yeah. I don't think I've got a particular dark side. I embrace
Exactly, yeah.
the dark as well as the light because I accept that these are facets of the society.
Right.
Don't do any evil deeds or anything like that.
For the
But
lack of a better word, we're just using language, I don't think a lot of people will understand otherwise because we're always thinking in terms of good and bad, duality, stuff like that.
yeah, and you see, when you mix with a lot of people, uh, you really you have to curb your personality. I mean, I've had to curb my personality in as much that I'm a very open person. I'm prepared to tell anybody about me.
hmm
And in exchange, I then used to expect everybody to tell themselves about me.
hmm
And when they didn't want to, I go, well, what's the problem? I've
hmm
just told you everything about me.
hmm
Why don't you tell me everything about you? And
hmm
it's kind of like, oh no, all this sort of thing. And I always found that a little bit bewildering because I couldn't really see why they couldn't be more open. Because seems to me most people, if they're more open, they get along a whole lot better.
You know what?
If
I use people for different things. You know, I'll decipher someone pretty fast, and I'll know what kind of relationship I will have with that person. With some persons, I mean, I can talk about things like this. I can have conversations like this with, like I have with you. With other people, I go to the club. With other people, I go to the gym. You know, so I feel like, you know, you have different kinds of people whom you can do different kinds of things with. You know, I don't expect the full package out of someone. I expect it only from a best friend or someone who's very close to me, or maybe a girlfriend. You know, but I don't expect it from everyone I interact with. You know.
No, so therefore, what you do is then you wear different hats with different people.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so this is getting back to where we started because I believe that these facets of our personality are independent
Hmm.
facets. They're not necessarily just a little bit of what we call the self or something. They are a self in their entirety, and they always like to be like that.
Hmm.
It's say like with me, there's a certain part of me that always likes to do exercise. Then there's a certain part of me that always likes to play guitar, and there's a certain part of me that likes to do other things. And they're separate entities, or definitely separate facets of what we are. And you just kind of like touched on it there by, when you've got other personalities, which this particular facet of your personality bonds with. So you go out with them. For instance, some people like to go down the pub playing darts and drinking a few beers. Well, when the variety of personality within you likes to do that, then you like to go out with them. You know, and it gets a bit complicated. Many people can argue the toss, saying, "Well, that's just multiple facets of yourself."
Hmm.
But I think inherently, the self isn't any personality. The self is just pure awareness. You see,
That's what I actually meant. I mean, what you really are, what I believe is this eternal presence or something like that, and all everything that comes after that is just your brain. You know, it's just what you are, who you are now. But I don't think you are that in the greater scale of things. So realizing that helps to put perspective to your problems as well. You know, and also realizing like a lot of people have these same problems. I mean, the things I talk about also are like this because, you know, I'm still young. You know, I'm still trying to figure out things. I'm sure a lot of
yeah.
teens, 20-year olds have the same things. You know.
So what you just said there, then, it's made it a little bit more easy for me to express what I'm trying to say because we are the self. It's an open book. It's just pure awareness within this body. Then through our evolution within this body, then we've developed facets of our personality. And so what we've done is we took on board certain traits from the selection of traits, and some of them have been like strong traits, other ones have been gentle traits, other ones have been your interest in this or your interest in that. So what you've done is you've picked eclectically from all the possibilities of things that you want to be, and you've got some traits within you which don't necessarily serve you all the time, but you keep them in reserve because they do serve you sometimes. Like if you want to really speak nasty to somebody and very, very quickly shut them down because they're really offending you, then you can bring that one forward. It's another facet. It's like it's another arrow in your quiver. It's a separate entity
Yeah.
and it's there on call.
Hmm. Yeah, but for instance, I, you know, I think I had some problems with feeling safe when I was younger, and I feel like that problem is coming up a lot now. You know, I sometimes really have the need to control things. You know, and trying on letting that go, but it's still really hard, and it's not benefiting me at all. But I think that I could use that, that trait, or that I could use it for other things as well. And now I'm trying to steer it into other things. I sometimes you'll do certain things like that control thing, and you'll find out it's a part of a larger trait. It's not a trait on itself. It's only a part of something bigger, and you can steer that bigger thing into something else, and the controlling thing will fade away. It's like it's a little bit like a puzzle, I think, or a little bit like a game or something. If you become aware of all of it, you can use it differently. You know what I mean, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's speaking about psychology and the subjectivity of it is very, very complex. But if you're feeling at certain stages that you are needing to express more control,
Hmm.
obviously it's because within those certain circumstances you're feeling more insecure.
Hmm.
So what you do is when you're going forward and you're like a little army consisting of like 100 men, and all of a sudden you see an army consisting of 250 men. So your army, which was secure when it never saw any other armies in front of it, all of a sudden instantly feels insecure because it sees a bigger enemy, yeah, looming.
Hmm.
So what you do then, you want to draw on something which is going to give you more confidence. So
Hmm.
therefore, you want to draw on more men. And so I think this is a lot of what's to do with when we feel insecure. When we start to get into new arenas and we start to feel not that confident because we haven't had the experience, then all of a sudden we're looking for something to draw on. And so, therefore, we're turning around to our past, wondering where we can pull this energy from. But it isn't necessarily the right way because what we have to do is we have to look at the situation and wonder where we can pour, where we can bring that energy down from wherever it is, rather than bringing it from our past, rather than all of a sudden reverting again to how we were, say, like 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, and it's all about, having confidence in yourself and not trying to find that in your external surroundings. For instance, tomorrow I'm going to Sweden on my own. For the first time, I'm traveling by my own, without, people doing stuff for me. So I had to plan everything out myself. You know, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just have to trust myself that I'll be able to deal with everything that will happen to me during this trip, and that's what I'm talking about. Instead of trying to control the outer world, what you can never do, you have to trust yourself, and then all that will resolve, and that's what I'm working on right now.
That's right. And so that reminds me of where I derive my strength from because I started traveling when I was 15 independently. And I've been many, many countries around the world on my own. And I've encountered many a situation. And obviously, in the early days, I could have mismanaged lots of the scenarios. I could have achieved far quicker and better results had I had another way of looking at it, or had I stopped to think about it, had I had more wisdom and experience. And so now what I was meditating on my patio early today, and I was envisioning a scenario whereby one day I may decide I'm going to travel around the world without any money at all. I will go to a large continent and I'll traverse that continent via whatever means, depending entirely on myself. So I have to use all the skills that I've got of persuasion, all the skills I've got of obtaining money and favors and bringing the positive attitude out in all the human beings that I come upon. That will be a real challenge. And I think at my age now, this is the ideal age to do that, to put myself in a situation and to test what I've learned.
Yeah. You should do it like a rite of passage, sort of.
Yeah, because if I discover that I end up sitting in the train station, starving, without any money or any food, then obviously I've completely failed. But if I can just go to any scenario, and when I'm hungry, if I can appeal to one or two people within my vicinity and encourage them to give me enough money for a meal, then if I can do that everywhere I go, then what I have to understand about myself is that I do have these powers of appealing to other people. I do have something which allows other people to give me.
Yeah.
Because in certain scenarios, people would never give you anything. So you have to work out why that is,
Hmm.
what you're giving off, and what it is you're portraying that doesn't allow people to give you something. You have to find out what that is. And so when you find out what that is, you can avoid that, and you can hone in then on the areas and the softness of their personality and reveal to them what they want to see in you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure you'll learn a lot from traveling by yourself.
Absolutely.
Because I'm going to do it now, and of course, when you're doing this for the first time, you're a little bit hesitant about it. But from your experience, do you think, you know, do you think you would have been the same person without doing all those, travel things?
Of course not.
Uh,
What I've you see, my traveling has consisted of many, many years of my life. And for instance, I have this level of confidence now. When I came back from my last travel, completely broke, and I went to the Department of Unemployment, and they told me that they couldn't give me any money for 3 months because there's been a new legislation which states that they're treating all British subjects the same as immigrants. And so they're not allowing any immigrants to claim benefits within the first 3 months. So for 3 months, I had to live off my wits, and I wasn't affected by it in any shape or form. Even though I contested it, and eventually I won my appeal, and I got the money backdated, but there was several weeks whereby I was waiting for this to happen, and I had to live on my wits.
mhm,
And I said to myself, well, I am not going to be afraid or down about this in any shape or form because I am going to rely entirely on the confidence that I will be provided for. And the main reason I was confident that I will be provided for because I live in a first world country where people do not die of starvation. You don't ever see anybody dying of starvation. You don't ever hear of anybody dying of starvation. So I say to myself, well, that's logic. I'm a very logical person. So there's no way am I going to die of starvation. I may go hungry on the odd occasion, but I can't die of starvation. So therefore, food and money has to come to me.
mhm.
I'm in an arena where food and money is all around in abundance. So if I can't lay my hands on it, then that's saying something about me, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true, and that's what I want for myself as well. Eventually, I want to be someone who can be fully reliant on himself. Of course, within realistic, terms, because of course you always will need somebody. You can't do everything alone, but I at least don't want to look for confirmation and whatever in the external world. Like now, actually, I was asking you, like, I'm asking you for insurance, basically, but you know I should be able to, I should have just should have just trust myself with it, instead of looking for assurance in other people. You know what I mean?
Yes. So, what's your purpose of the visit to Sweden? Are you going traveling on your own, or are you going there for a purpose?
I'm going to do a city trip. I just wanted to just wanted to do something out my comfort zone. I just want to go against my comfort zone. I want to enlarge it. And I want to experience new things. I've already been to the USA and China, but I did a group trip. and then the only thing you have to do is go to the airport and they will do everything for you. And now
Yeah,
I had to schedule the whole thing myself, and that's completely different, and I have can make my own choices and whatnot. So
yeah.
yeah, that's basically why I want to have more experience. That's the purpose of it, basically.
Okay, so what I used to do as a youngster, and this started from when I was like 18, I used to hitchhike.
Hmm.
And I used to hitchhike to other countries, hitchhike within my country down to holiday resorts and things like that. And I would have a very small amount of money in my pocket, and it wasn't enough to sustain me more than a week. And so I knew that by the time I'd got into this foreign country, then I'd have to come up with some results. And so it makes you very much of a socialite because you have to engage positively with just about everybody that you meet because you'll never know which of those people is going to be responsible for an opportunity for you.
Hmm.
And so this really keeps you in tip-top social condition because you're open to everybody and everybody can see look how open this guy is and they're attracted to you and they feel comfortable in your presence. And so I would hitchhike, and every time I got a lift from a certain person, they'll say, well, so where are you going, what are you doing? And I'll say, I'm going here, I'm going to do this, and I'll do that, and blah blah blah. Well, what are you going to do for money? Well, I'm going down to Saint Tropez and I'm hoping to get a job on one of the yachts or something like this. Or I'm going to Greece and I'm hoping to get a job scuba diving instructor. Something like this. People appreciate that. They go, wow, man, I take my hat off to you. And just as you get out the car, they go, hey, mate, and get in the back and they've got like a couple of bars of chocolate, a couple of bottles of water, and a bit of fruit, and they give it to you because they want to. It's something that they would love to do, but they can't do it. They don't have the strength to do it, so they want to help you on your way to do it.
Hmm.
This is
That's to
what you
do
have
with
to.
yeah. That's to do with the energy you put out, right? Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm really curious how things will how things will go. I'm really excited, but a little bit not afraid, but yeah, it's all excitement. Both positive and negative. So yeah, it's gonna be an adventure.
Yeah, and so if you haven't booked any accommodation, then you've got to find that out. See, another scenario, what I did is I went to Canada
Hmm.
and I decided I was working in the building trade in the UK, and true to my nature, I was bored and I thought, I'm not doing this forever. I'm going to go to Canada. In actual fact, I never set my mind on going to Canada. I had X amount of money whereby I went into the travel agents and I said, where can I fly to for this money? And at that time, they gave me the opportunity of America or Canada or somewhere of equal distance.
Hmm.
And I said, Canada. I've been there before when I was 17. I used to live in Vancouver Island. And so I thought, I'll go back to Canada again. I know one person in Canada. I wasn't intent on going to see that person. I had no idea where he lived anymore. And so I thought, well, I like Canada, so I'll go. So I bought the ticket, and people were saying to me, what are you going to do for money? How much money have you got? And I said, I've got enough money to last me on a tight budget for 2 weeks. Well, what happens then? Then how are you going to get back? Because I only bought a one-way ticket. And I said, well, I've not bought a return ticket because I don't intend to come back, and so I have to make it work. Well, what are you going to do? How are you going to do this? And all these other insecurities. And I said to myself and them, I said, listen, they're an English speaking country. It's a first world country. And I'm confident within myself, just as I'm confident here that I can go and get a job within 2 weeks, I'm going to get one there. Only I'm going to have more encouragement to get one there because if I don't, I'm in trouble.
Hmm.
So what I did is, as soon as I got out from the airport, I got a taxi and I said, "Take me to the YMCA's, where young people, book in casually." And I wanted to go to these places because within these places you have lots of people which have traveled all around the place with lots of knowledge. So you start getting talking to these people. Where have you been? What have you been doing? Oh, I'm so and so grape picking in the grapevines. Oh, okay, that's one option. Oh, I was working for this builder. Oh, what's his number? Blah blah blah. And so all of a sudden you've got options, and then you have these pin boards whereby you have all this information up on there, and so obviously that's a first step. And then I got the local newspapers looking for jobs. I bought myself a mountain bike so I could get around the whole city. So I had a map, I had a mountain bike, I had the local newspapers, and I was ringing up people about jobs. For 2 weeks, I was doing this every single day. And I was coming upon people, and they were going, "Wow, you're so positive, you're so full of energy." I had to be. On the 13th day, I got three jobs offered to me just before my money ran out. Two jobs were in the building, and one job I got working for a millionaire who owned a yacht charter company. I took that job. He paid me well. I got accommodation. The job was easy. We had access to the hotel on the marina for very, very cheap food. It happened. I made it happen.
You could have made a movie out of that.
My life should be a movie.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I've traveled many, many countries and done many things far, far more exciting than that. But that's just one scenario of the level of trust that you put in yourself.
Yeah,
Because even then, even before I was on my spiritual path, I knew that I created my world.
that's something I lack. Instead, you should look for opportunities instead of problems. And that's I've looking for problems instead. For instance, yeah, if I would have done the same thing, I would have arrived in Canada and I would have been tired. And where do I sleep? And you did the exact opposite. You just went somewhere and you were just talking with people and finding things out. I could do this. I could do that. And that's the difference where I and a lot of people could learn from. It's a society thing, like you said. Your surroundings were asking you like, oh, what to do, what are you going to do when you come there? Well, it's something a lot of people do. Not that many people
Everything
go outside of the comfort zone.
Yeah, they want to project their insecurities and fears onto you. I've never been susceptible to insecurity or any real fear. Obviously, if a fear is very real and rational, then I'll bear it in mind.
Hmm.
I'll negotiate it. I won't run away from it.
Hmm.
And so that's just been my personality. Where that personality comes from, uh, I'm so different to all of my other brothers and sisters. We had the same upbringing. For instance, my elder brother, exact same upbringing. He's only 2 years older than me, and yet his attitude towards life completely different. So what's gone on there? You
Both
know,
nature and nurture, I guess. But that's one of those things we haven't
Well,
found
that's what I'm
out yet.
saying, Rowan. The nature
Yeah.
was exactly the same because we came from the same parents.
Hmm.
The nurture was exactly the same because we were brought up in the same environment
Hmm.
together. So genetically we're the same. All of our nurturings and doctrines were the same,
Hmm.
and yet we ended up being completely different people.
Yeah, I guess that's something we haven't found out yet.
Do you want to put a light on, Rowan? It's getting a bit dark. There you go. You see, if YouTube give us the options of choosing one of three icons, and there's one bright and there's a couple dark, then at least you have the option of the bright one because the aesthetics of it
Yeah,
are
of course, of
important, aren't
course.
they? To draw people to it. If they see it's all dingy and everything, they just think, "Oh, I'm
It's
not
more
bothering."
appealing to look at. Yeah, I understand.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, but the nature versus nurture thing, there is something in an individual that makes someone an individual, and that part determines how you look at life. So you could experience life totally different as your brother did, and that's why things turned out the way they did. Um, but what exactly happened, I don't think we know yet. It's so complex. What are our origins? It's really complex.
Well, there's something which came apparent. This was 5 years ago when I started out on my spiritual journey, and I was delving into all this stuff, and I lived in the same vicinity as my older brother, and he would pop round to see me once a week, a couple of times a week or something, and I would engage with him about the stuff that I'm learning, and I would try to get him involved because it's so amazing. It's so amazing. I was like this, but he was just indifferent about it, and just like, oh, so what? What we're going to do about it? This and that, and he would just go back to his tiny little world with all of his problems, which he was enveloped in, and he seemed like he was the pig in shit in that. And when I started talking to him about something. I don't know how it came about, but I said to him, I said, I'm going somewhere where you can't go. I wasn't meaning I was traveling because he never had the money. I was speaking philosophically. I said to him, I'm going somewhere where you can't go.
You probably
He,
were there already.
sorry?
You probably were there already, right? Because you did all those things.
Yeah, and I was in a different state of mind. I already was a changed person in the beginning, the first year of my spiritual journey.
Hmm.
Um, I knew that I was on a mission. I didn't know what the mission was. I didn't know why. I just was drawn into it, and I was compelled. And so I knew that I was going down this rabbit hole, and I knew that he could never go down. And so it's funny how that particular time, I said that to him, and I've said this to quite a few people. It was a very, very peculiar feeling because I almost felt kind of like Jesus-like with my instinctive knowing. The knowing came from somewhere else, and it told me that I've got a journey to go on. He can't come, you know, it's only for you. And so, even though I wanted to maintain this closeness with my brother, I knew that it was all over
Hmm.
from that point forward,
Hmm.
and it has been.
Hmm. Yeah, that can be very hard. But to be honest, I would rather live a truthful life than living not a truthful life in order to be around certain people.
Yes, and so you have to be authentic to yourself, and the divide came very, very quickly after that, and the chasm hasn't been bridged since, and I don't think it ever will be because it's become too massive now, absolutely too massive. And his life has stayed exactly the same, with the same old problems, the same old depression, suffering from the same old psoriasis through his anxiety, because he can't look inside himself. He can only look out there, and his negative disposition keeps creating all the negative things around him. And if I ever try to tell him what is happening in his life, then I would only get venom. Um, who do I think I am? Just because I've read a few books and now all of a sudden I know this and I know that and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, hey man, I'm just trying to help you with the benefit of my experience and
It,
knowledge.
it's a
But
human condition. I almost feel like a lot of people are doing the same thing or in some kind of way doing the same thing. It's a shame, especially for people like us who are trying to become more aware. You'll find that you're surrounded by people who are mostly living unconsciously and just doing something.
for the initial stage, you will, like you've experienced now, like I did. But you see, what you do is when I knew that this was something that I was driven to do and it wasn't something that I set out to do, this is something that I've been sucked into. And
Hmm.
so then I become very, very philosophical and spiritual about all facets of my life because I look back at my whole life and I go, oh, that's why I did that. That's why I did this. That's why I've done all this traveling. That's why I've done all that studying. That's why I'm so experienced in so many things because I'm going to be in this position where I'm at now where I'm articulating all of my experience to benefit other people.
I have that too, you know. I think I had all that anxiety, and all those problems I talked about in the last episode for a reason, because without them, I would never had a reason to look within, you know. I would have lived my life the way everyone is doing, but because of all the trauma, you know, it was like pressure to do something else. So indeed, you know, I don't look at it from a place of victimhood or something. I do think it was for a good reason, and without it, I wouldn't have been the same.
Absolutely. So I will never consider that anything is ever negative in my life. I
Hmm.
will always consider that it's a challenge for pure positivity.
Hmm.
And when you rise to the occasion, you overcome, then of course you feel elated. You feel even more confident than you were before because you have surpassed whatever the issue was that was put in front of you.
Hmm.
And so, on the basis of that, any challenge that we come upon, if you deal with it with enthusiasm, you meet something instead of going, "Oh, fucking hell, why is it always me?" This, that, and the other. Go, okay, then, right, we've got a challenge.
How are we
How
going to solve this?
how am I
Yeah.
going to solve this? And it's great. It's fantastic because all these challenging challenges are solvable. And when you work your way through it, and then when you get around it, over it, under it, through it, whatever, then it just like it gives you the strength to even go on to bigger things. So what you've done now is you've started reaching out to other people. You've started creating your videos, communicating, and what that's doing is due to your candidness and due to the nature of the things we speak about, you're going to attract those sort of people.
It's
And
true.
so you will end up conversing like this with many people because Lord knows there's a lot of people who suffer from many, many things that we've been speaking about. And if you can speak openly about it and have some sort of advice or just the fact that you listen and exchange, then that's enough to help many people.
Even people you wouldn't expect it from, you know, because you're so, you know, at some point I was in this role like, oh, I'm the only one doing this, you know, and everyone is dumb, you know, and I'm above everyone else, and then you're only focusing on that. But when you're a step further and you realize like, oh, there are more people like me, you all of a sudden discover those qualities in people you already knew. So that's really interesting.
Aha. Yes, you see, because if you start getting into this train of thought that I know all this stuff and all these idiots out there, they're all sheeple, they don't know it,
Yeah, I had
then
that.
yeah, you don't ever give them the opportunity to reveal to you that they, in actual fact, do know. Because if you assume that many people may know, then you will be much more receptive to allowing that information to permeate from whomever it is that you're with. But if you're like, oh, I know this and you don't know that, then it's kind of like you're never going to bring the best out in the Maya.
And everyone has a lesson for you. Every asshole out there, every girl, every friend, everyone has a lesson, you know. Everyone can learn something to you about yourself, you know. So that's really interesting.
And that's it. And so, in my early days, because I came from a family, my father was really quite elitist. Then he instilled within me a certain level of elitism, and I would look through his eyes, and his eyes were elitist, bigoted, and I came to understand the reason why he was like that. Um, was because of his insecurity,
Hmm.
because he wasn't confident like he was portraying, but he gave off this aura to repel people.
Hmm.
So nobody could penetrate into his little fortress and discover that really he's a very insecure man.
And it had nothing to do with you, you know. I think it's only natural for someone to copy certain behaviors of their same-sex parent, you know. The the boy will look upon their father, and the girl will look upon um, their mother, you know. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's normal.
My man, he was the apple of my eye,
Yeah.
and he did have a large impression upon me. But fortunately, I quickly had the wisdom to see his weaknesses and to see his strengths and
But I think
determine my,
a lot of people are doing that, right? It's just a part of growing up, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. And when we grow up, you see, we realize that we have become a mini father.
Yeah.
You have to say to yourself, hang on, I'm a man now in my own right. So I need to form my own opinions. I need to form my own prejudices, if I so wish. And I need to dissolve those prejudices and opinions that were bestowed upon me through my education under his
Mhm.
household.
Yeah. It's really interesting, man. To be honest, I have to leave in a bit. I have to pack my bag for tomorrow.
Right.
We should do this again, maybe in a few weeks when I came back. I can talk about my experiences and we can, you know, talk about more
Oh,
things.
definitely. Yeah, that will be very intriguing to for you to convey how everything's gone. You see, now this is what I do all the time. I do this. I look at myself from this perspective, I project myself into the other perspective. When I'm there in my projection, I look at myself sitting here. So, what I suggest what you do, you create your reality now, Rowan. You create yourself wherever you're going to be having the time that you so choose. Because if you walk out the door feeling intrepid, feeling insecure, feeling fearful, then you are not going to be achieving what you should or have the potential to do. You have to go out the door with your mind set on having a great time, a successful time, a positive sign. You don't necessarily have to go what hotel or bed sit you're going to be staying in, but the feeling that you are going to be having from this, you have to know that.
All right. Thank you, man. Thank you for the tips. I will definitely do it. And like I said, I will let you know, and we'll talk in a few weeks.
Yeah, brilliant. All right then, Rowan. So, should I call you Rowan or should I call you Max these days?
Whatever you want.
All right, buddy. We'll leave it at Rowan then, because that's how it started.
Okay, then. All
All right,
right.
mate. Nice
Speak to
one.
you in a bit.
Have a great trip, and I'll look forward to speaking when you get back.
All right. See you, man. Later.
Cheers.
Have a
Bye
good
bye.
night. Bye.
I'm me, and that's all I can be. I'm me. Here's my vulnerability. I'm free, and you can't stop me. I'm free, and that's all I can be. Days pass, I'm trying to find who I really am. I've been looking, people don't like the way I dress, so where I'm at, I've been looking. I dye my hair, and it's not just vanity. I've been looking, your validation is just not that important to me. And that's all I can be. I'm me. It's my vulnerability. I'm free, and you can't stop me. I'm free, I'm me, and that's all I can be. Night falls, and I find it's here I am in peace. I've been looking, making friends with spirits lost, and it sets me free. I've been looking, express myself, 'cause it's my liberty. I've been looking, your validation is just not that important to me. I'm me, and that's all I can be. I'm me, I'm me. Here's my vulnerability. I'm free, and you can't stop me. I'm me, I'm free, and that's all I can be. I am me, I am me, I am me. I am free, I am free, I am free. I am me, I am me, I am me. I am free, I am free. I am me, I am me, I am me. I am free, I am free, I am free. I am me, I am me, I am me. I am free, I am free. Oh. Create yourself, redo yourself, renew yourself. Be you, do what you do.